On today's show, we are live on YouTube. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we're answering your questions. The season is starting tonight. The Mavericks play the Atlanta Hawks. If you're listening to this, watching this on a Thursday, it is going to be awesome. We're going to answer all your questions today on today's Locked On Mavs.
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor, and writer at Mavs.com, the live lord, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
It feels so weird watching basketball, and it's like I'm just so jealous. I just need the Mavericks back.
It's not our time yet.
I need them back tonight. A lot of you guys are listening to this on your way to work on Thursday. A lot of you guys are in the YouTube chat right now. This is a live mailbag on Wednesday night. And Mavs basketball is back. Like actual legit basketball, not fan jam crap, not the preseason, but actually legitimate basketball.
Actual legitimate basketball will be returning tonight. If you listen to this on the podcast, this episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by McDonald's. Proudly serving communities since 1965, McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you for our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. We're loving it. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available on all platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey app, and YouTube, where you can watch us right now. We are live talking about anything that you guys are asking about.
We're talking about your hair. We're getting multiple comments.
There's a lot
in
of stuff about my hair
hair
today. There is a lot about this. And raccoon gifts, of course.
When we have a hair gel sponsor, y'all know how we got it.
All right, let's get into it. Let's start right away with our first question. John Andre asked the question, can the Mavs beat the Hawks by 10 or more? If not, why? It feels like he may have some kind of line or some kind of wager on it. But let's start with this game against the Hawks tonight. How are you feeling about the Mavs' chances, and what do you think?
Can they win by 10 or more? Yes, they very well can. But no, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I mean, you're looking at a Hawks team that, I looked at the injury report. I mean, this so crazy to even think about from a Mavericks standpoint, but the only people out for the Mavs are Ja'Cory and Amarui, just because they're the two-way guys. Everybody else completely healthy. Like when's the last time we've seen that?
That's been a long time.
Nobody on the injury report for Atlanta. Lou Williams is questionable. Gallinari is questionable. Kongwu, I think, is out. I think somebody else is out, but they'll have their main guys. And I mean, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So in Atlanta, I just want to, like, I'm going into it. I'm confident, I think they'll win, but I don't think it's like a home run either. I'm not putting money down on this game. Like if Atlanta comes out and wins this game about 8 to 10 points, I'm not shocked. And I'm not like swayed that the Mavericks are like, oh my gosh. And, Twitter might be unbearable, but that's,
yeah. I'm interested to see how the Mavericks defend the three-point line. I think that's going to be a huge thing. They got three-point shooters for the Hawks. Like you said, Danilo Gallinari is questionable. Lou Williams is questionable, but Kevin Huerter, obviously Trae Young, and like they got some three-point shooters over on their side. So the Mavericks are really going to have to live up to that billing. They've been talking about defense the entire preseason. Like Luka mentioned defense in one of his interviews after practice the other day, and then somebody mentioned that Luka mentioned defense to Jason Kidd, and Jason Kidd gave a little smirk, just a little like, yeah, they got it. It's working. They're talking about defense. He's like, yeah, that's what I love to hear. And so they really have been pushing that. And so if the Mavericks can defend the 3-point line, they can keep it within 10 points. But that's gonna be a huge thing, I think, in this game.
Yeah, and who guards Trae, right? I mean, if they're starting the two bigs, they're going to start KP and Dwight Powell, then Dorian or Tim, have fun chasing Trae around. It's probably going to be Dorian, probably gonna put some size, on Trey. But
I feel like the Dorian thing was a Carlisle thing. I kind of wonder if they'll just throw Tim on him just to have somebody run around.
I mean, could, but if you're gonna try to preserve somebody, I'd rather preserve Tim's legs for shots. But
interesting, yeah. This game's gonna tell us a lot about what Jason Kidd is gonna do and what he's thinking about doing. Right, like we're gonna learn a lot about him for sure.
Yep.
All right. Here, let's go this one. Would Ben Simmons work on the Mavs roster? We've gone over this a little bit, but let's touch on this just here.
Yeah, he would.
How would he fit?
He would be your better wing defender, more athletic Dwight Powell. I think there would be a world, and I've been anti. Shout out to the days. Do you remember the discourse Luka's rookie season, to where there was like a faction of NBA Twitter? It was like, you're crazy if you would take Luka over Ben Simmons. Like, where are those people now? Are you still online? But no, if they somehow traded for Ben Simmons and you paired him with Luka, I think Luka could make it work.
Yeah, Luka could definitely make it work. The defense would be an absolute fit. The interesting thing would be Ben Simmons and KP. You would probably have to trade KP for Ben Simmons because of contracts and all that maybe. But the interesting thing would be, how would they fit together? How would you share the ball? All that kind of stuff.
They could fit together.
Sure, it would fit. It's highly unrealistic and all that.
Well, just take Dwight Powell's role, and that's the role you'd put Ben Simmons in.
Yeah, you could, if Ben Simmons would be up for that role. Now, the way that he's been treating the Sixers, it doesn't seem like he would just be up for that role, right? It seems like he wants to go somewhere else. And
he's like Kyrie at this point. I don't know what to predict.
It's true. The whole quote about I want to go to a different team and be able to make mistakes and all that, that seems to be a guy that just wants the ball in his hands and to dribble around. And he's like looking at Josh Giddey like, oh man, that'd be nice. That'd be nice just to do whatever I want.
I would love to live in OKC.
Similarly, would you use a traded player exception on Marvin Bagley? Question from Luke.
I don't think he fits in it, right? Or does
I don't think he fits in it either. I think we went over this over the offseason that it was just outside. Now there is a clause. I think there is a situation where if he doesn't start a certain number of games this season, which he won't, then it may go down. But I think that wouldn't be until next year. So, yeah. So, but it'll be interesting to see where Marvin Bagley ends up, because he's not going to play on the Kings. I think he's more far gone than Simmons is even.
What is Bagley make? Bagley makes 11.3 this year. Yeah, so he's a little bit past that. But I mean, if you could get Bagley for cheap, I'm all about taking swings at these guys. Kind of like the same thing as Frank Ntilikina. It's like I'm all about taking swings. If you can get them for super cheap, then take the swing. I mean, not to bring up the Dwight Powell role again, but heck, throw him in there and say roll to the basket and just see what he looks like next to Luka, if it's for free basically.
Good question from Robert. We'll get to right now. Is the team seriously better on defense, or is this just a preseason glitch? It's a little bit like, what did we actually learn from preseason? What can we take into next season or to this season from preseason?
I was gonna say, I think it's two things. It's two things for me. I think one, they added depth. Like we saw, Dorian Finney-Smith took a question after practice, I want to say today, maybe yesterday. And he was basically asked, hey, how is it different, this year? Something along the lines of like having other guys. Basically, there's actually other players on the roster and play defense on the wing outside of you. So how does that like make you feel? And he had this answer of like, yeah, and man, I can like come out of the game knowing that there's still like, there's Reggie, there's Sterling, there's Frank, there's Frank. Like they actually have depth now. And I think that's so key. Now, when figuring out which two or which three you want to play at the end of a playoff game, that's up for Jason Kidd. But it's like now, yeah, if Dorian fouls out or if Dorian tweaks an ankle and he's out a few games, we're not like freaking out saying, well, who the heck's going to guard Paul George or whoever it is? It's like, all right, cool. We have Bullock. We have Sterling Brown. Like I'm excited about those guys. And I think those, for a lot of people outside of Dallas, it was, oh man, they didn't, hit the big name. But those tiny additions right there in the rotation and the wing, they can make a big difference for this team.
Absolutely. I think that it's understated how much role players can matter for a team. You start looking at some of the rotations. We were talking about the Lakers rotation last night. You had like two solid players to that Lakers rotation, or if two of those guys become solid at some point, it changes everything for a team, because then all of a sudden you fill some of those gaps, you fill some of those holes. And for the Mavericks, they had some holes last year. They didn't have a lot of wings. They add two solid wings. Reggie Bullock maybe even better than solid. And so you add those guys, and it eats up some minutes. I think absolutely this team did get better on defense. Now, it's still a lot on Porzingis. The Porzingis is going to make or break the Mavs defense in a lot of ways, I think. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how he looks, how he's being used on defense. We've been used to seeing Porzingis playing defense at the 5. Remember, Carlisle's whole thing was, let's play KP at the 4 on offense and 5 on defense. I'm not sure if Jason Kidd's going to do that. So he may be out there. Is he going to be out there defending Gallinari? Is he going to be out there? Or is he going to be trying, yeah, no, Porzingis.
And how much have we heard about defense's effort? And we just talked about it yesterday about how much these players seem like they're loving playing for Jason Kidd so far. And it's like, will we see it just a little bit, a notch up effort-wise from the Mavs, because they're playing for a coach that inspires them.
Yeah, it's so coming up, we'll get into some more questions from you guys. Our most anticipated game of the season. We'll talk maybe about a little bit about Josh Green. Did he get extended, or exactly what exactly happened with Josh Green? We'll talk about those things coming up. But before we do, Isaac, you mentioned that the Mavericks are loving playing for Jason Kidd. You know what else we're loving? McDonald's. This episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by McDonald's, serving communities proudly since 1965. McDonald's has always just been more than a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come together, and you're like, hey, let's just go hang out and go to McDonald's. In college, how many times did you go to McDonald's with your friends or your roommates? Like, I feel like I went all the time. It's a place where you can meet up, study. They have Wi-Fi. I've definitely spent some time at a McDonald's doing work or watching a show when I didn't have it somewhere where I was, whether I was visiting somebody or it was out at my place or whatever. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team or the away team can come to recharge. So go check out McDonald's. So head to your local McDonald's and refuel and reconnect. We could even have a Locked On Mavs watch party at a McDonald's, possibly. That would be fascinating to see if we could do that. So go check out McDonald's after a game, after you hang out with friends, whatever you want to do. Go to McDonald's, get a quarter pounder, get a Big Mac, all that stuff. Get it right now. McDonald's, I'm loving it. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more of these questions. We got a whole bunch of questions. This one from GM. What's the game you're most excited about this season? First of all, to me, it's almost the game one. It's almost the game tonight, right? Like I'm almost the most excited about this one because it's the first game, it feels like, in a long time, and I'm excited to see how this team looks. It's against the Hawks. It should be highly anticipated. GM says for him it's to play the Pacers against Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, I mean, that 29th game in January, January 29th, against the Pacers at home. It's a Saturday night. If you want to speculate on when a fun big ceremony could happen, it could be that night. And I think there was a question in the chat about that. I actually don't know the 100%, answer to that. I'm sure that date is set in stone already, but I just haven't asked around enough to know
the
that.
Date for when Dirk's jersey retirement and statue and all that stuff.
Yeah, so the 29th, Rick Carlisle coming back into town. Do they have it on that day because Rick's there and it'd be cool to have Rick there for Dirk? Or do they not have it on that day because, hey, they want to honor Rick, the most successful, coach of franchise history? And it's like, oh, that's kind of all that. So I can understand that. But it is a Saturday night game. There'll be a lot of people there. Families come to that. There's a lot that goes into that, weeknight games and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a fun game. I mean, anytime you have a guy like Luka, him going against the top stars in the league you always look forward to that. Luka versus LeBron. Like the Lakers is, it's been a fun game to watch. They respect each other a lot. It's a lot of fun. Brooklyn, Giannis, everything. I mean, I don't really care as much about the Clippers without Kawhi, and there's nobody on the West I'm like circling like, ooh, big time.
Yeah, that Clippers rivalry has kind of been deflated with the Kawhi injury, right? It's not going to have the same punch, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, okay. Miss Buckley asked the question: did the Mavs really extend Josh Green? So, and then with the
Missy Buckley,
the surprise face. Sorry, Missy. I forgot the Y. Did they actually extend Josh Green? And what does it mean? No, the Mavericks just basically picked up his option on one of the final years on his deal. The way that Mavs PR kind of put it out there seemed like an extension. It seemed like I guess technically they extended him, but not to the exact like semantics of the word, right? They just picked up his rookie option. It's what happens to basically every decent rookie is that's what happens. So they didn't like give him more and say, "Oh, you proved enough to us. We're going to give you this contract." No.
Exactly. I mean, basically they just have him under contract for a little bit. They could cut bait after this year if they wanted to, but not now.
Here's an interesting
thing to do, by the way, too.
Interesting question from Jacob. Will Jason Kidd use his first challenge in the first game? How do we feel like J Kidd's going to use his challenges? Because it was something we definitely watched with Rick.
It's something we watched with Rick, and we actually got a little insight on that on our podcast when we had Mike Shedd on, assistant coach who ran the iPad, for the past, years on the bench with Rick Carlisle. Go back and listen to that podcast. It's one of my favorite ones. Just getting to talk to Mike and explain that whole process. But he actually talked about like times that he told Rick, to challenge and Rick didn't challenge, or times that Rick would take the challenge just to shift like the momentum. And how like one year they had a really high like hit rate on successful challenges. The next year it went down because they kind of shifted their philosophy in that. It was just so unique to hear how coaches use it. It's not always, we want to get the right call. Sometimes it's like an extra timeout and they just want to, stop the momentum a little bit.
Yeah, you might as well use them. So it'll be interesting to see how J Kidd decides to use it. And a lot of times it doesn't just depend on the coach. It depends on the people around him that says, hey, we should challenge this. Or maybe he uses it to boost the player's confidence. Like, hey, that player thinks that we should do this. Then I want to throw that player a bone and boom, I'll challenge it because that player said so. Yeah. So hopefully we'll learn something like that. If he uses one, be interesting to see in what state he uses it. Okay. Question from Joseph.
State.
What state of the game he uses a challenge?
California, Georgia.
Well, it'll be in Georgia if it's the first game. From Joseph, will this faster pace help Luka get shredded by All-Star break? Are the Mavs going to play a faster pace? Do you feel like they are?
I think they will, yeah. I think they play a little faster.
With two big men still? That's a weird thing, right? The Mavs are committing to playing two bigs, and yet they also want to play faster, which every team says they want to play faster.
It's so unique because I think they will get the ball off a rebound and want to go. But I think if they don't have that, then I think it'll slow it down a bit because they're going to want to get KP possessions, right? And we've seen that. It's like in the post and, short corner and at the elbow and like all this stuff. So it's, will the stats have them as like one of the top teams as far as pace? I don't think so, but I think we'll definitely see some fun, like get the rebound, launch it, outlet pass, let's go. Yeah, if that makes any sense. Probably.
Yeah, and hopefully, like, how do teams play faster? You get stops, right? You get stops, and then you can outlet the ball to the closest person that can dribble the ball, basically, right? And so if they have those two bigs back there, maybe that helps them with the pace. But will the faster pace help Luka get shredded? I'm not sure we'll ever see Luka shredded. I'm not sure.
Might not ever need him to.
Until Luka Doncic is in a Marvel movie, I'm not sure we'll get him on a regimen where he can get shredded. But Marvel seems like they can get anybody shredded.
That's true.
First, it was like Robert Downey Jr., and then it was Paul Rudd, and then Kumail Nanjiani is like insanely buff, and now like Will Poulter is super buff, and you're like, oh my God, what is happening to all these people that just go through?
I know. I'm gonna act like I know who all those people are.
Robert Downey Jr. Come on, you've seen the movie.
I know him, but I don't know who like Tim Coulter is.
Will Poulter is the eyebrow kid from Narnia. Remember?
Oh, okay.
He's in some of the new Marvel movies, and he's ripped now.
Interesting.
All right, coming up, we got a question about Jalen Brunson versus Tim Hardaway Jr. There's two things those players can do to make the Mavs better. Which one would be better for the Mavericks? We'll get into that coming up and more questions. But before we do, let me tell you about an app that has helped a lot of people. Isaac, do you want to know what makes LeBron James King James?
Nothing, because he's not a king of anything.
He's the king of sleep. Sleep is his superpower. Calm, the #1 sleep app for meditation, has teamed up with LeBron James to help you activate the power of sleep. Oh, man. You are a father of 2 small children. How much does sleep help your life?
A lot.
By the way, we have 77 people on our live stream right now. Let's go. LeBron and Calm know that your mind is like any other muscle in your body, but you don't have to be a world champion to know how to train it. Calm can help you train your brain so that you sleep better, reduce your stress, and perform at the best, just like LeBron James. He was shooting pretty well the other night. So if Calm is what's helping him, then I would get on this. Go to calm.com/LockedOnNBA. For a limited time, you'll get 40% off a Calm premium subscription. You can get all kinds of stuff, access to nature scenes that LeBron loves, rain on leaves, stuff like that. I always have to go to bed with something playing. It's either a show or something. And so I need to check out Calm, and I can get 40% off if I go to calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. Get started at calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, calm.com/LockedOnNBA. Also, I want to tell you about Sweatblock. Sweatblock is a product that everybody needs, basically. Anybody that deals with pit stains, that deals with sweat, that deals with sweating profusely. We've been telling you about some of these people that have been trying Sweatblock that actually have reached back out and said, hey, I tried this and it actually worked. Straight out of Hollywood, we have a producer who is working on the set of a Marvel movie. We were just talking about Marvel. Maybe you've heard of Marvel. She was working 18-hour days a week in the Atlanta Heat, heard about Sweatblock and started trying it and now loves it. No more sweaty producing days. She even reports that one of the A-list actors uses it. It says maybe a green one. Interesting. To stay dry and on the red carpet.
Groot.
That was not. He's not on the scene though. He's just in a booth like Vin Diesel. Go check out Sweatblock. Stop excessive sweat for up to 7 days use. Doctor created, doctor recommended dry shirt guarantee. Not just for armpits. It's for chest, back, feet, hands, all that kind of stuff everywhere. Get 20% off at sweatblock.com. If you want to check it out, they have deodorant. They have all kinds of different things. Again, promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off at sweatblock.com. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more questions. Taylor Lewis asked this question. Which would raise the Mavs ceiling more this year? Jalen Brunson being a legit sixth man of the year candidate, or Tim Hardaway Jr. being able to get his shot off the dribble? So I talked about Jalen Brunson being a sixth man of the year candidate. I actually picked him in our predictions pod for him to be sixth man of the year. That I think is a huge deal. And that's way bigger to me than Tim Hardaway being able to get his shot off. I think Brunson being a sixth man of the year candidate would take him to like, let's say he's averaging like 15, 17 points a game, like 5 or 6 assists off the bench or something like that. The Mavericks are doing well when Luka's off the court. That to me raises, I guess maybe that raises the Mavs floor a little bit more, but still in the playoffs, I think it would help their ceiling as well.
Yeah, I think it's Tim. Yeah, I think it would be Tim in that, just because this would allow, I mean, one of the biggest things for Dallas, they went 7 games against the Clippers with an otherworldly Kawhi. And I think one of the biggest things that hurt the Mavericks, especially towards the end of the games, was how gassed Luka looked in those second half in the fourth quarter. It's been the whole conversation, like, how can you keep Luka fresh, come the fourth quarter? And it's like, if you can have, this is the whole thing, if you can have another creator in the offense, it's like, could Tim be a reliable second creator guy? Like, you can give him the ball and give Luka a few possessions off here and there, but he can actually run the offense, when Luka's off the floor too. So it's close. It's close. It made me think about it. Like, JB being a sixth man of the year candidate, like, that'd be huge for the second unit when Luka's off the floor. But if Tim could be like a legit, like, I don't know if this is anybody, like, if he could be a CJ McCollum type, like, that would be huge for this team.
Absolutely huge. I think both of those things would be huge. The Tim Hardaway Jr. angle of it, let's try to make a case for him, is that if he can start hitting a shot off the dribble, maybe he can create his own offense, and then maybe he becomes the guy off, when Luka's off the court, to where he is the one that is creating some offense too, and him and Brunson can maybe be that backcourt that generates offense when Luka isn't on the court. And so maybe we'll see a thing where Tim plays like the first 5 minutes or something, then he checks out, and then he comes back in later after Luka goes out, and then he is one of the offensive engines. So that could also raise the Mavs ceiling. But Tim just needs to hit shots, like spot up shots with his role in the starting unit, right? I don't think the Mavericks need him to be creating off the dribble just right now with playing with Luka, or at least going out and trying that stuff right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in a lot of the creator spots, creating for the other offense. And I mean, you just look up jump shots off the dribble, looking up synergy numbers right now for Tim. Last year, he was 46th in the league as far as percentile. And that shot 35% off the dribble is an average rating on that. If that could be a little bit better, be able to create his shot a little bit more, but also create for others at the same time. That would be huge.
Yeah, that would be absolutely massive. Another question from Luke here. Which rotation players do not play against the Hawks?
That's a great question.
That one's going to be interesting because we consider a bunch of players, I think, rotation players now. I think if Reggie Bullock's going to play and Sterling Brown's going to play and Dorian's going to play, I think Josh Green is probably not going to play against the Hawks.
Yeah, and this is another thing. It kind of comes down to, Jason Kidd versus Rick too. Like, how is Kidd going to run this as a shorter rotation? Is he going to run this? A lot of times we'd see Rick, he'd go kind of short in the playoffs, but in the regular season, I mean, sometimes Rick would go 10, 11 deep. But I think when you're looking at the rotation, you're obviously looking at the 5 starters. And then after that, I do think it's Sterling Brown. I think it's Reggie Bullock, Jalen Brunson. I mean, that's 8 at that point that you're looking at.
Sterling.
Well, I said Sterling Brown, Reggie Bullock, and Brunson. Those 3 off the bench. And I mean,
and Maxey, the other one I was thinking.
Yeah, so there's 9. I mean, I think that's the top 9. I think that's a lock. Outside of that, I don't know who.
Well, they're probably going to play 10 because Willie Collins, they'll play a center, I think.
I mean, you think, but it's like they're also starting 2 centers, right? Like, there's KP's gonna get some minutes at the 5, probably. Willie, I don't know. Like, will Dwight? If KP's off the floor, will Luka run some with Dwight at the 5? And Maxey out there with him. I don't know. Like, if Willie, I mean, I'm assuming Willie's gonna play, but like, I don't think Boban plays in this game. Josh Green probably doesn't. Frank Ntilikina probably doesn't, unless we've talked about this before. If Trey's like torching them, is Frank Ntilikina the break the glass, player this year? Like, hey, just throw Frank in. Let's see if he can keep up with Trey. Well,
the last time we saw Frank Ntilikina, who was playing against Trae Young in the Knicks the Knicks Hawks playoff series.
Reggie Bullock too.
Yeah. All right, couple last questions here. Jacob says, who ends the season with more threes, Boban or Powell?
Dwight.
Dwight is going to take threes. This is one thing I think we did learn from the preseason. Why you always laugh at me when I say that? He is. It's not something
I'm laughing because we've seen this before of like him taking threes. Like, it's not
I'm just saying there's a new coach and I think he's going to take them. He took 21 last year, 39 the year before that, 127 that 18-19 season. So I'm the last couple of years, Rick has been like, don't take them, Dwight. And now I think Jason Kidd has come in and empowered him.
Yeah, and now let's just see if he'll have the chances to take them, right? I mean, have the chances / will they go in? I hope, because it changes a lot if they do.
All right, let's do that hypothetical then. Let's say Dwight Powell turns into like a 34% three-point shooter. What does that do for the Mavs?
Oh, well, then you have shooters everywhere. I mean, if he can be a 35% three-point shooter, then okay, now he's still going to be the guy that the teams leave open and say, all right, you can shoot the ball. But it does change a lot. It changes a lot of space if he can hit it.
Yeah, it allows, like you said, because then all of a sudden the Dwight pump fakes that we make fun of people for falling for, like anytime a defender falls for a Dwight Powell pump fake the last couple of years, we just laughed at them, right? I would just tweet their name in like all caps and say,
it's happening Thursday night. Somebody's falling for the Dwight pump.
Oh, for sure, and it'll happen. But that pump fake becomes real. That pump fake, if he's actually hitting threes, if he becomes a 3-point shooter and he is hitting at a decent clip, then all of a sudden the pump fake doesn't become as ridiculous. And then that adds another guy that can pump fake and drive off the dribble a little bit. He's not going to do it into traffic or anything. But when Dorian added that to his game, it added a lot to the Mavs offense. Because then all of a sudden, then the joints are like greased, right? Because then Dwight can do this and Dorian can move this.
It's what Golden State looked like against the Lakers when they had Belly out there. Like, all the guys out there could shoot when they were running Belly at the center spot. Like, that's when it was just everybody's flowing, everybody's moving, and all of that.
They can all move. They can all move, and they can all shoot, and they can all move off the dribble. That's what in offense. That's what you really want in offense.
Joseph also says in chat, I'm more worried about Green's 3-point shot. I actually think I agree with that. I think I'm more confident in Dwight Powell's 3-point shot than Josh Green's.
Well, we've seen, how long has Dwight Powell been in Dallas? Since 2014. We've seen him work on that 3 since then, right? Yeah. I mean, that's years. That's like 7 years we've seen him work on this 3-point shot.
Yeah. Pacers just lost.
Rick Carlisle lost the first game against the Hornets. What are our big takeaways from Rick Carlisle's first loss? Here's another question from Joseph. How many games before we see Kidd get ejected?
I don't know, man.
I think it might take a while. I think that might take a couple until like this goes into something I've been thinking about. What happens when the season starts taking a turn where the Mavericks it's not going well for the Mavericks? How does Jason Kidd respond?
Oh, I think that's one of the biggest things we got to see, because it's been peaches and
cream
and lollipops, since like they started playing basketball. I mean, they haven't lost a game in preseason. They're saying all the right things in training camp. The team chemistry seems awesome. Media day was awesome. Everybody's saying the right things. Like it's going well. But what happens when the first, 3-game losing streak happens? How's the post-game comments? How's KP? How's, Luka? How's Kidd? Like, I'm fascinated about that.
Everything looks good. The vibes are like
vibes are immaculate.
The vibes are immaculate when everything's going well, but when it starts to take a turn, it'll be interesting to see how will Kidd respond. Let's say Luka plays a game where he's just not getting any calls. We've seen these games before. Luka doesn't get any calls. He's complaining to the refs. How will Jason Kidd come to his aid or try to help him? We've seen quotes from Jason Kidd. You don't have to yell at refs. You can do other things. And so, I don't know. All this Zen stuff goes away when you start losing games, I think, pretty quick. All right. Last question. Sal said, are we going to see a trade before All-Star weekend? Who might get traded on the Mavs?
On the Mavs?
Yeah.
Or just in general?
Because going into this season, we thought there's no way they're going to take all these centers into camp. And here they are with all these centers. So I'm kind of with Sal. I'm like, there may be a trade still happening, or at least the Mavericks are primed for a trade. But who's the package?
I mean, I honestly think everybody's on the table. I mean, outside of Luka. I mean, I think there's still a world that even no matter what you think, or no matter the best case scenario for the next 3 months of Kristaps Porzingis, I think until that deadline passes, I'm still in the back of my mind like, possibly. Like, I don't care how good he looks, because there's still always okay. Do you sell high because of the injuries? Do you like all of that stuff if he's playing incredible? Or do you I think there's still going to be a question mark even up to the deadline. And then outside of that, if he's looking great and everything's awesome and you can go out and get somebody else, like what if Jalen Brunson really that's why I don't think if you're telling me who's the most likely, I think it's like Moses Brown or like Josh Green. I think it's like one of them.
Yeah. Because those young guys, you can throw them in as a little sweetener. I think the Willie Cauley-Stein, Trey Burke combo of contracts, that seems to be primed for a combination of those two guys and something else for another player, right?
Yeah, because like Willie and Willie and Trey Burke, would get you to like what, 7 million, something like that. So yeah, I mean, we'll just see. We'll see what Dallas thinks of the roster too. Are they still going, swinging this year for a bigger name, or do they look at their roster if they start off, 13-4 and they're like, man, this is awesome? Do they swing for it, or do they say, no, we just need to tinker and just, move around the edges?
Good morning, Isaac.
Everybody on the stream, stick around. We're going to continue to answer some more questions. We're going to go rapid fire and answer some of your questions. Everyone in the podcast, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting so close to 8,000. Thank you for everybody that has done that so far. The season starts tonight. Let's go. I'm so excited for the Mavericks to actually play a game. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We will be back with a post-game recap. Mavericks versus Hawks. Now make your second listen today. Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball show on the planet. Like literally millions of views right now. Just like dominating everything. Free and available on all platforms. Go check it out. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.